Hello and welcome to another edition of The Lightest and Best, where we look at the lightest and best knives produced by a variety of manufacturers. And today we have a special treat. We have the Torrent by Millit, which is their lightest and best knife to date. And you may be asking yourself, why have I not seen a review on this knife or even heard about this knife? Well, look at this. It'll tell you on the blade there, 1 of 50. Of this iteration of the Torrent, I have the very first one out. They mailed it to me, and I wanted to get you guys out a video so that you could make your order because they're just starting to come out. The Torrent is the lightest one. Millit Knives has been a OEM manufacturer for a variety of designers. They're based in Meridian, Idaho. Some of the OEMs they've done have been for, they did the Orbit that we have here. It was for Gavin Hawk and Serge Pachenko. It has the Hawk lock on it, and I really like it. But Millit Knives made that. They also made some knives for Booz Blade and a variety of other designers. The first collaboration they had was the Max Evolution they made with Jerry Moen of Texas. And this is an example of the Max Evolution. It has titanium handle. You can see the carbon fiber inlays, anodized titanium pivots and clip. They have kind of a animal tail style clip. I mean, Zeba has the devil's tail clip. This isn't necessarily that, but it does have I'll say it looks more like a monkey tail. And then they put on this great Odin's Eye Damasteel. Oh, look how pretty that is. I'm going to let you guys get a macro of that. So they do really good work, excellent work. A lot of the guys trained and learned their craft over at Chris Reeves, and then they came to Millit Knives to start their own company, starting out with OEMs, but now they do their own ones. Well, TJ Swarz is the designer of this knife, and it is a great little knife. We'll talk about the specifications. The blade length is 3 1/4 inches long. The handle length is 4 1/8 inch long, giving a total knife length of 7.375 inches in length. The weight of the knife is 2.9 ounces. And to get a knife that light, you're in a very elite group. We're going to talk about some of the light knives that reach a 3 1/4 inch blade. And the first one, and maybe the lightest one, is a Benchmade Bugout. This just came out recently. And it has a polymer handle called Grivery, and as you can tell, it's milled out and it's really thin and you can squish it, but it is what it is. It's a light knife. It's 1.8 ounces, but that's one of the knives. Benchmade earlier made the 531 Pardue, which is 2.1 ounces. Again, it doesn't have full titanium handles. It has these G10 handles, but it's a very light knife also with a 3 1/4 inch blade. We have in the lower end the Boker Plus Anti-Gravity. It's 2.1 ounces. It doesn't even have a metal blade. It has a ceramic blade. And for those of you that don't have a ceramic blade knife, you might want to think about getting one. They're really good slicers. They stay sharp. You can't use them to chop wood or anything. It's mostly food prep. And it's G10 with a sticker of carbon fiber over that. It's 2.1 ounces. Another big favorite that's light is 2.44 ounces, the Benchmade 940 Osborne. This is in the pure carbon fiber scales, and it's 2.4 ounces. So you can go below the 2.9 ounces, but you're having other materials like carbon fiber or polymer or G10. This is an example of the North Arm Skaha. It's 3.1 ounces, and it has these really thick G10 scales, and they don't bend and flex like the Bugout, but still they're not full titanium. When we get up to the full titanium scales and similar weights, you're going to be spending a lot of money. Here is an example of a 3 1/4 inch blade in the Shirgoroth Neon Ultralight, and this reaches 3 ounces. It almost gets that 2.9 ounce, and but this is twice the expense. The value of the Millit Torrent is $375 in this configuration with the carbon fiber and anodization and everything. This knife is the same length. It's 0.1 ounces heavier, but it's almost the same weight, but it costs twice as much. This will cost $700 to $800. And then there's another knife that's over 3 1/4. This is 3.4 inches. It's the Grimsmoe Rask, and wow, it's just got this excellent machining action. But they have full titanium scales, excellently milled out, and it's 3 ounces also. This is a little larger knife, so you're getting a better weight ratio, but it's hard to find these unless you can win the lottery. They sell them for $9.95 at Grimsmoe directly. If you can't get them for $9.95, you're going to be spending between $1,000 and $2,000 for this knife. So it's 3 to 5 times the cost of the Millit knife. So wow, for a full titanium knife, and you even get carbon fiber overlays and anodization, you're getting a pretty good value because it's hard to make a light knife, and that's why I emphasize and specialize in the lightest and best knives, because anybody can make a heavy knife. You can get a chunk of steel and make steel handles, and there are Crickets and Kershaws that specialize in that. But get to delicate light knife takes a lot of money and a lot of technique and a lot of love and a lot of milling to get it down to a good weight. Well, we'll talk about the blade. The blade is made of CTS XHP. It's CNC manufactured. It has a hollow ground and a little bit of a drop point blade. I'll give you a look at that. And the blade finish is a stone wash. It has a thumb hole, which has a little bridge here in the thumb hole. The thumb hole deploys the knife pretty well. You have to do it a little slower than the flipper works, but it works pretty well. There's some jimping on the spine of the blade, and the spine is not crowned, but the top comes up higher than the sides, and there's a little CNC ridge on both sides here made by the machine. But really love the configuration of this blade, and I'll talk about how it relates to the clip in just a little bit. The method of deployment of the knife is by flipper, and many of you, and there's a reviewer specifically that loves low profile clips. He doesn't like a clip that comes and sticks out. He calls it a pocket pecker. And this clip, flipper tab, you have to get a little ahead of it. You can get ahead of it with the tip of your finger and it can flip out nicely. You can even use the pad of your finger and flip out nicely. What you can't do is get right on the clip and expect it to flip. Your finger will slip off. Even with the jimping, your finger will slip off every time. Another thing you can't do is you can't button push it. You can button push that all you want, but the geometry is just not there. An ideal geometry for a flipper is having at a 45 to 60 degree angle. This is the Liangma Warrior 1, and that's just the direction that your finger wants to pull. But look, you sacrifice the slimline profile here, and a lot of guys like that to slip your keys back on it and your keys don't get hung up on a pocket pecker that's sticking out like that. So with this slimline design also comes a weaker detent, because you can't get as much traction because you have less of that 45 degree angle to push on. So it is possible to make this knife fail. I can just really tap it and I can make it fail every time, but if I want to, you can flip it hard and you don't have to use any wrist to get that blade out of there. The handle is a blue anodized titanium with carbon fiber overlays. As you can tell, the carbon fiber overlays has milling and has this reptilian kind of pattern. On the other side, the titanium is milled to mimic the top of the pattern. The bottom of the pattern can't be replicated because you have the lock bar. It would interfere with the lock bar, but a lot of times to lighten a knife, they'll do interior milling, and they don't have this on this knife. They put it externally, and it's for a unifying aesthetic theme, and I really like it. There is a back spacer on this knife that extends about half the length of the knife, and there's a gear pattern on the top, so when you're in reverse grip, you can get a little bit better traction with your hand. The pivot on the knife runs on ball bearings, and it flips out smoothly, and it returns smoothly. I'll let you see here just a little bit of shaking, and it comes right down. There we go. The lock on the knife is a Chris Reeves style frame lock, and on this particular knife it locks up about 30%, about how you want it. You can tell that the lock bar insert is about 100% on the blade tang, which is about exactly like you like it. As I mentioned, it has the lock bar insert and over travel stop. An interesting thing, it's secured with 3 screws Two of the screws go from outside to inside. One of the screws goes from inside to outside, and I don't know why they have them going at two different directions, but it probably makes the lock bar a little more stable, a little more secure. I just thought it was interesting to note it. Moving on to the pocket clip. This is one of the things I love about this particular knife. You notice that there's an aesthetic theme. The thumb hole and the pocket clip have the same design, and so there's an aesthetic thing where the pocket clip unifies an aesthetic theme in the knife. I really love it when manufacturers do that. I'm going to give you some example of other makers who designed it that way. This is the Curtis F3, and he has this reticle pattern on his pivots, and he also has this reticle pattern on the pocket clips, so you have this unifying design theme integrated into the pocket clip. I'll take Alamic Cutlery's Acid Rain 24/7. The Acid Rain has these varying holes drilled in them. Really looks pretty. And on the pocket clip, they drilled varying holes too, so that you have a unifying aesthetic theme. We'll move on to the Liang Ma Warrior 1. The first iteration, this is the version 2. On the first iteration, they just had a regular standard clip. On the second iteration of the Warrior 1 version 2, they made the pocket clip look like the same shape of the blade. You have this upswept blade configuration, and the pocket clip has that same upswept seam, so you have this unifying artistic theme. We'll move on to another guy that did this, Jason Browse. This is the Razorback. He has this sweeping line in the middle of his knife, and on the back, on the clip side, he has a sweeping line, but the sweeping line continues on the pocket clip, so it has a unifying theme. Love it when they integrate the pocket clip like that. We'll move on to the Reich knife. This is the Reich 1508, an integral knife. It has the 3 holes on the back of the knife, and you have the CNC milling with these fine milling lines. And on the pocket clip, they did that too. They put 3 holes and then the fine milling lines, so it looks integrated into the knife, not just stuck on as an afterthought. And lastly, I'll talk about the Spyderco Brad Southard. Here is the original clip, and Spyderco was an underachiever on this one. They just they have a titanium knife. They stuck a stainless steel clip on it. Well, whenever Kevin Smock made a modification of it, he got some titanium. He put the same finish on it. He put 3 fuller grooves, just like the lock bar relief cuts, and it looks a lot better than the original, doesn't it? I love it when guys integrate an artistic theme. This is a knife that you want to carry around. And I also love how he has these micarta inlays, and then he did the collar pivot also, and he did this on the orange G10 too. He has an orange G10, and then the pivot collar is in orange G10 too. Love it when they do that. Okay, well, the Torrent does that also. It has the CNC machining on the titanium as well as on the carbon fiber, and then the same design on the thumb hole as the pocket clip. Love it when they do that. All right, moving on to the ergonomics. The ergonomics on the knife are great. It has over a 4-inch handle. There's plenty of handle space. There's no hot spots. The clip fills well into the palm of your hand. And the action, as I've mentioned, is very smooth. I'm going to just show you. It has a good detent angle. The detent angle is when you release the lock bar, how long does it have to travel before it hits that detent ball? And you only go, I don't know, not even 5 degrees before you hit the detent. And then you can get it over it, and then you can just shake it out. That way you don't have to take it all the way down here and then shake it. You can get your thumb out of the way very early in the process before you shake it down. The signage on the knife. On the show side, there is the lot number, and I'm fortunate to have the number 1 of 50. I feel very honored. Thank you a lot, Shane, by the way. And Millit Knives puts their maker's mark milled into the carbon fiber. I really like that because it's not garish. It doesn't stand out, and if you turn it to the side, you can't even really see it. And Millit did that too with the Hawk Pachenko knife. Here is Hawk's maker mark. It's like the talons of a hawk. And then Serge Pachenko, the SP there on the back. And it's real subtle, very understated, and if it's in a shadow, you can't even tell it's there, and I like that. The signage on the back of the blade, there's nothing on the handle. On the clip side of the blade, there's just the steel type, which in this case is CTS XHP. Very good, very well done. And I've already mentioned the value. It's $375. It's half of the price of a Shirogorov Neon Ultralight and a third to a fifth the price of a Rask from Grimsmoe. A very good value. So what are my impressions of the Millit Torrent? I really like it. I think it's not only the lightest and best of Millit knives, but it may be the lightest and best of this particular price point in the 3 1/4 inch blade in full titanium. Are there opportunities for improvement? One of the things that I wanted to point out, and it's a positive, its slimline design make it a little bit tenuous whenever you flip it. And they had to put a weak detent because the flipper doesn't really stick out like a pocket pecker, and so you can make it fail. Well, I tried to make it fail and I couldn't there, but I can make it fail if I hit it really slowly like that. So if you like a snappy detent, that's something to consider. This detent is very adequate, it's just not very snappy. And the other concern I had was just a potential concern. I really love the milling they did in the carbon fiber face. It beautifully displays that blue anodization. I got blue, you can get whatever color you want. But is lint going to get trapped down in these little holes with other knives that go all the way through? For example, like the Acid Rain, lint can't go there, it just goes all the way through and falls out. But is lint going to get trapped in here? I've been carrying this around for a little bit and haven't had that problem. I just wanted to mention that as a potential problem. But what do I like about the knife? Wow. This is the lightest 3 1/4 full titanium flipper that I know of at this price point, and it is so well done. The aesthetics are great on it, as I mentioned. The unifying aesthetic theme in the pocket clip and the thumb hole, and then the milling in the titanium and the carbon fiber are similar. I really like the job that TJ Schwartz did in his design of the knife. And I like Millit Knives' business model. I just got to say this. I ordered this knife. I found out about it and ordered it at Blade 2017, and they told me it was going to be done in X months, and they got pretty close to their production predictions. There's so many knife makers that they'll say they'll do it in 4 months, and then 8 months later they still don't have the knife out. And I just appreciate that they're professional, they meet their production timelines, and that's just refreshing in an industry where people are sometimes a little too blasé about meeting their timelines. So in summary, if you're looking for the lightest and best 3 1/4 inch full titanium knife at a reasonable price point, with excellent aesthetics and a smooth action, then the Millit Torrent may be the knife for you. Like and subscribe. In the comments section, let me know what you think about the Millit Torrent. And we'll see you on the next House of Wisdom Lightest and Best video.